Ontario, we have this thing called the Sunshine List. If you work for the government in any capacity and you make over $100,000, your name and your salary go on a public list. This was brought in by Mike Harris in 1996 in order to keep the public sector accountable. We know what it really was about. An attempt to keep wages low and an attempt to demonize unions. Because the really dastardly thing is back in 1996, you could tell that just based on inflation, a lot of people in the public sector, like nurses, teachers, and cops, were going to end up on the Sunshine List within about 5 years. Because the Sunshine List includes every public sector employee above $100,000 without adjusting for inflation. Why is it important to adjust for inflation? Because if we were to adjust for inflation, the $100,000 from 1996 in today's dollars is over $175,000. So we have teachers and nurses and doctors and just like garbage collectors and just random people, TTC drivers on this list, because this list is supposed to shine a light on public spending and abuse of the taxpayer dollar. But when literally everybody in the public sector is making six figures now at the end of their career, the list is useless. And for perspective, in 1996, the average home in Toronto sold for about $200,000, whereas now it's $1.3 million. So maybe, just maybe, the Sunshine List should be pegged to inflation, which is actually a great idea, because if we were to peg it to inflation today, we could see which jobs in Ontario are keeping up with inflation and which ones aren't. For example, since the time that I graduated from high school, the average teacher has lost about 22% of their buying power adjusted for inflation, meaning that a teacher's salary, if it was the same as it was back in 2009, should right now be about $120,000, and it is not that. So when you're saying that teachers are overpaid, you should also take into account the fact that teachers' salaries for the last 12 plus years have basically not moved at all. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some greedy, dumb teacher who doesn't understand things. I should go back to babysitting.